Well, I hope you're ready for some unindoctrination because, ready or not, here it comes. I'm Jeffrey Darty, the Christian Whistleblower, coming straight out the heartland to you. It's not your normal Sunday show, and we are here to break it down and to bring it down for you. Nice to see everybody in the chat room, a spirited chat room. And I just want to make a couple of introductory comments. Number one, as regards the chat room, every single one of you that's here, just based on the fact that you are here, means that you have a YouTube channel yourself. You absolutely have a YouTube channel yourself. There's no doubt about that. And what I'm doing is I'm making a rule. You can't troll in the chat, but I will make you a deal. You can't troll in the chat, but at the end of the shows, I will open up the phone lines so you have the ability to call in. And if you don't have the balls to make the calls at the end, then we're not going to allow you shriveled up little ball people to talk in the chat and troll in the chat. In the chat, if you're polite, if you're interesting, that's great. Same thing on the calls. But if you want to troll, you cannot do it in the chat. You got to be man enough. You got to be woman enough to call in at the end and make yourself known, like this Jesse White little punk right here. Jesse White little punk can't call, but he won't be allowed to troll. Now, Jesse, if you got some balls, call in at the end of the show. If not, feel free to have a hot cup of shut the hell up, because that's the way it's going to work around here. I'm the most accessible personality on YouTube, and you can call in and share. You got to be polite. You got to be interesting, but you can't do it in the chat room. That's the way it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we're going to look at a video that young Pharaoh did in 2018. And I'm not going to show you young Pharaoh's video, and here's why. Because the way YouTube works, and this is one of my pet peeves, I don't like it when someone will come on your channel and do a YouTube video with you, and then they go and post that YouTube video on their channel. And the reason I don't like it, I think it's rude, and I don't do it, it's because of this. The way YouTube works, if I put Pharaoh's video here and go through Pharaoh's video and talk about it here, I get the views, but Pharaoh doesn't get the views. And right now I am demonetized, so YouTube get to keep all the money. But if I just tell you about Pharaoh's video and it's linked in the box below, that means if you want to know about this subject, you go to Pharaoh's channel, and then Pharaoh gets the views, and Pharaoh gets the watch time, and Pharaoh gets the advertising dollars and the dollars that are associated with how you make money on YouTube. Ain't no reason for me to try to put the video here when that would make you not want to go to Pharaoh's channel, because you already saw it here. They've been stealing from Pharaoh for a long time. I think right now he is monetized, so we're not going to show the video here for that reason. And Pharaoh did this video in 2018. And everything that Pharaoh said is 100% true. Everything that Pharaoh said is 100% accurate. But Pharaoh didn't have all the information at that time. He's 100% accurate about the Church of Scientology, and he's 100% accurate about the L. Ron Hubbard that we knew of up until that time. But what we found out in 2019 is that, there's a plastic Jesus. There's also a plastic L. Ron Hubbard. And the Church of Scientology created plastic Dianetics, plastic Scientology, black Dianetics, and they created a plastic L. Ron Hubbard. And Pharaoh was 100% right about plastic L. Ron Hubbard. Or we could call him Jesus Ron Hubbard. Pharaoh's 100% right about that guy. And Pharaoh's 100% right about the Church of Scientology. But new information has come out that there is a plastic L. Ron Hubbard and there is a plastic Dianetics. And it came out in this book that I had to search long and hard to find. I don't know if you can see it, but it says the untold story behind the U.S. government's takeover of Scientology. And that's David Miscavige, the current leader of the church, who is a CIA plant. And you can see that's a very, very thick book. And I'm trying to work my way through this so you can understand. And I had this same conundrum because, I grew up in Clearwater, Florida. I watched the church grow. And I had an occasion through a very weird circumstance to be paid to take a sales course that was sponsored by and was written by real L. Ron Hubbard, not plastic L. Ron Hubbard. And it made me from a good salesman to the best salesman. And I thought, whoa, this shit works. But then I come across all the knowledge that Pharaoh dropped on us about L. Ron Hubbard and about the Church of Scientology. And it was a conundrum. How the hell can this information really work? But yet it come from such a piece of shit, right? Hey, not your normal Sunday. So I went to studying, and it took me 5-6 years to get to this information. And this information was not available to young Pharaoh when he made his video. So we're going to break down, give you some, and this is just a supplement to young Pharaoh's video, bringing new information that young Pharaoh simply did not have access to at that time. So people want to know, oh, are you going to debate Pharaoh? Are you going to do? No, it's not that at all. And here's the video that was young Pharaoh's video. So you can see what it is, and you can go to his channel and you can watch this video if you want to. It's called Young Pharaoh Scientology Exposed. You can see the URL up here. Well, I guess you can't see the URL on your screen, but just go to Young Pharaoh's channel, type in Scientology, and this video will come up for you. It's 1 hour and 43 minutes. It's actually an excerpt from a full 3-hour Scientology Exposed lecture that young Pharaoh did. And you can go to youngpharaoh.net to get that lecture. And I am a member of his channel. It's great money. It's well invested. And, well, Pharaoh, he's only in his 20s. How can he teach us anything? Well, one of the important things to learn about being old is not to dismiss new truth coming from young innovators. And do I agree with everything Pharaoh says? No. But the brother brings a lot of good and don't give me that shit about brother. I call everybody my brother when they are my brother. Don't matter what color they are. But this brother brings you some great information. He's a little different than me, absolutely, but he does bring some great information. And we just want to remind you that we got Late Night in the Heartland, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Central to 1 a.m. Central. It's a 100% call-in show. It's 100%. You pick the subject. We welcome all. Love me, hate me, troll me. We allow all people to call in as long as you are polite and as long as you are interesting. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here, of course, to talk about L. Ron Hubbard. We're here to talk about Scientology. And we're here to, come on, work with me, computer. We're here to talk about the things that we're here to talk about. We're here to make plain the things that we're here to make plain. And we're going to do this in order to help you have some more information. And what is wrong with this thing? Why won't it work? Oh, well, we're going to have to just go with this one right now. We're having some issues. I was going to change my background. All right, folks. So let's talk about this. And I think it's important right here at the beginning that I read what I wrote down here, just so you know exactly what's going on. And then we'll get right into the program. Young Pharaoh got it exactly right when he exposed the Church of Scientology and their L. Ron Hubbard. What he did not realize, because he didn't have access to the information yet, it wasn't available, is that the Church of Scientology invented another L. Ron Hubbard that is not the real L. Ron Hubbard. I recently started teaching my version of Dianetics and Scientology. We call this Create Yourself. There's a great playlist right here on the channel. And I'm using only the pure meaning just L. Ron Hubbard writings. Whether they're pure or not, it's just L. Ron Hubbard. We're using only the pure pre-1972 literature, which was written and published by L. Ron Hubbard himself when he was solely in charge of Dianetics and Scientology. Many people are very interested and already seeing great gains in their lives by using what I personally consider, after 40 years and literally hundreds of thousands of hours study across the spiritual spectrum, to be the most elegant and workable collection of spiritual practices and technologies ever brought together under a single roof. As this work has progressed, I've had many people make me aware of this presentation done by my friend Young Pharaoh on this very subject, and he did it back in 2018. Young Pharaoh was very critical of the Church of Scientology in his video, and he's 100% correct. The Church of Scientology is a dangerous cult that is enslaving and stealing from as many people as they can get their claws into. Young Pharaoh was also very critical of Dianetics, Scientology, and L. Ron Hubbard himself, and he's 100% right. The Church of Scientology created a false Dianetics, a false Scientology, which is black Dianetics and black Scientology, and they also created a false L. Ron Hubbard. They created L. Ron Jesus. They created Jesus Ron Hubbard. They created Plastic Ron. They created Plastic Ron. And in order to continue my work helping people use white Dianetics, white Scientology, and the work pioneered by real Ron, not Plastic Ron, I felt it necessary to supplement Young Pharaoh's information with new understandings to the very valid points that Young Pharaoh raised based on new information that was not available to Young Pharaoh at the time that he made this video. And you, the people, can evaluate all this information and decide for yourself what is true and what works or what does not work for you. It's up to you if this works. And I think it's the best thing that I've ever found. Thank you, Tracy, for posting that in the chat. Critical says that YP put out the best video about negativity last week. It's brilliant. So I encourage you to go and subscribe to Pharaoh's channel. I encourage you to go out. And yet, Lionel, we're going to address that. Lionel says he called Dianetics hypnotism. He did. And black Dianetics is. But here we go. Let's just jump right into it, folks. Remember, we're referencing the Young Pharaoh video that I have placed in the box below, in which I have given you access to. So let's go ahead and jump into a little presentation that I made to help you more accurately understand and more easily understand what we're talking about. And we're talking about the supplement, or we're giving you a supplement to Young Pharaoh's 2018 assertions on Dianetics, Scientology, and L. Ron Hubbard. So I'm going to go through his video. If you watch his video from the beginning, these things are in order. They're in sequence. And you can see what I'm saying, and then you can look and see what Young Pharaoh had to say. And this will give you a full, up-to-date 2020 idea of the totality of Dianetics, the totality of Scientology, the totality of L. Ron Hubbard. And we are exposing Plastic Ron today. It's not enough to just expose Plastic Jesus. We're also exposing, and maybe exploding, if we can make that a word. We're exploding Plastic Ron. So ready or not, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Why this video again? Pharaoh got it right when he exposed Scientology and their Plastic Ron. He didn't realize, because it wasn't available to him at that time, that the COS invented another L. Ron Hubbard. That's not the real L. Ron Hubbard. Again, I've started teaching. I call it Create Yourself. We're sticking with the pre-72 literature. A lot of people are saying this. They're like, but Pharaoh, who we trust and understand is a great researcher, says this. Well, it's important that we put out all of the information so people can understand exactly what's going on. I have great respect for Young Pharaoh. I love Young Pharaoh. He has taught me many things, and he was very critical of the COS. 100% correct. Dangerous cult. Very critical of Plastic Ron. Should have been 100% right. Plastic Ron is bad. And again, this is so you, the people, can evaluate, decide what you want to do, what you want to use. There's new information that's come out that Pharaoh didn't have access to in 2018. And here's my understandings relating that. And we continue to be supportive. I'm a subscriber. I subscribe to his pay site of Young Pharaoh. And to this day, I do continue to, again, subscribe to his premium site. And it's worth every nickel to me. So Young Pharaoh's video and new information on points raised. In this video, we're going to talk about L. Ron Hubbard's military records claimed by the Church of Scientology and why they are. L. Ron Hubbard's injuries sustained on duty. LRH and his involvement with Aleister Crowley, the Sea Org, and the HBO mainstream media criticism of LRH. We'll talk about Operation Snow White. We'll look at the logos of Dianetics and Scientology. We will look at the kidnapping of L. Ron Hubbard and the takeover of his work by the U.S. deep state under David Miscavige. We will ask if L. Ron Hubbard was racist. We will look at Dianetics and Scientology. Are they hypnosis? And we will look at white and black tech, how Dianetics and Scientology started and their connection to CIA and MK Ultra mind control. So, yes, critical thinker, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. So here we go, folks. The military records claimed by the Church of Scientology and why they claim them. At the beginning of beginning of young Pharaoh's video, he goes through Church of Scientology claims and Plastic Ron claims, and the Church of Scientology falsified the military records of L. Ron Hubbard. Because remember, they're trying to create a hero. They're trying to create a Superman. And L. Ron Hubbard was a solid naval officer. L. Ron Hubbard, had a distinguished career. He retired. He left the service. We'll get to that with an honorable discharge. But they didn't want just a solid guy. You want a guy to be a Superman. So what they did is, and it was an attempt to smear LRH, because what happened was LRH was at a hospital and he was using Dianetics to cure people that nobody could cure. None of the other doctors could cure. And then the same hospital, they were developing MK Ultra, mind control, the OSS, the CIA, and they asked Lieutenant Hubbard to give them the data, and Lieutenant Hubbard refused. So they said, we're gonna cause all kinds of trouble for you. So he just quit the Navy. He didn't retire, because if you retire, you still get the retirement money, you get all that, but you are still under control of the Navy as an officer. So he didn't retire. He quit. He forewent the retirement pay, the benefits. He just quit because he wanted to be able to share his information. And within about 2 months, he had Dianetics published. So it was because the U.S. Navy could not control L. Ron Hubbard and take the information of Dianetics. At that time, it was just Dianetics, that he refused to turn over his research. So they attempted to smear him, and he just resigned his commission. Now, the church, the big church, the fake church, says that L. Ron Hubbard said he was blind. Pharaoh says that L. Ron Hubbard wasn't blind, but according to L. Ron Hubbard's own words and the real records, L. Ron Hubbard had a condition that whenever he was exposed to light, it caused excessive tearing in his eyes. Now, I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, if every time you're exposed to light, your eyes excessively tear, what does that mean? That means you can't see. And if you can't see, that means you're functionally blind. If you can't be in any light without your eyes tearing up, then you are functionally blind. L. Ron Hubbard, real Ron, real LRH, real Ron, said that he was functionally blind. And he was, because he could not, as Lola says, it's photosensitivity. He couldn't be exposed to any light without his eyes tearing up, and he couldn't see. If you can't see, that means you're blind. And LRH, real Ron's testimony is that Dianetic treatment caused this ailment to go away. And, Pharaoh hasn't read any real Dianetic and Scientology books, and I understand why. But he made the statement that he used Scientology to cure himself. I just want to make sure that's not let you know that's not accurate. Scientology deals with the Thetan, which is the spirit. Dianetics deals with the human body. So Scientology will never heal a physical issue, but Dianetics can. Just wanting to draw those distinctions. So did L. Ron Hubbard say he was blind? Yes. Was L. Ron Hubbard blind? Yes. In my opinion, if you can't be exposed to light without your eyes tearing up so you can't see, that makes you blind. And Real Ron says that Dianetics healed him. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first assertion that we wanted to address, and it's good stuff. Now, let's move on. LRH and the Aleister Crowley connection. I just want to make sure that I got it in order. LRH and the Crowley connection, the Crowley friendship. The fact of the matter is that L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley never met. They never had any in-person dealings whatsoever. They never met. Now, young Pharaoh played a piece of video or audio where Ron says that Aleister Crowley and he were good friends. That's what he said. And Ron was showing in this video, and it was a speech. He was saying that he studied Thelema, and he found some things that were interesting there, but he found some things that weren't interesting there. And Ron said he was a good friend. Ron, if you listen to Ron's speeches, which I've listened to all of them, and you look at Ron's writings, he was a master of sarcasm. He, instead of saying that Aleister Crowley was a creepy guy, he said, oh, we are good friends. When everybody that knows Ron and reads Ron in context knows that that's kind of a backhanded bitch slap at Crowley. Oh, he and I are good friends, and you chuckle. You're really not good friends. That's why he called him a good friend. He was a master of sarcasm and used it to convey feeling rather than straight out criticism. He was also given a public speech. And this type of phraseology is really, really common in Ron's communication. And like Tracy says, very much like President Trump does. Oh, we're great friends. We know he's not great friends. It was sarcasm. He's a good guy. Sarcasm. Absolutely. And also in that same video, that same piece of audio that young Pharaoh used, and you can find it on young Pharaoh's channel, Real Ron also very nicely called Crowley crazy. And without any disguising of his phraseology at all, he said that Thelema is a cult. Ron is on the video, Ron is on the audio on Pharaoh's channel saying that Crowley's Thelema religion was a cult. And he says that Aleister Crowley, well, he was something or other. He was something or other. Like Tracy Dyer, Real Ron's native tongue was sarcasm. So he clearly said that Crowley and his religion were a cult. And he clearly said that Crowley was, well, something or other. Not a very good Ron impression. I've never ever actually tried to do a Ron impression, but that's what he said. And Real Ron investigated, he participated, and he studied Crowley's Thelema, and he left it. Exactly like I did with a high magic secret society. I was initiated as a priest into a high magic secret society. I investigated it. I participated in it and found that it was not where I wanted to be. Did I learn some things in there? Yes. And essentially, that's what Dianetics and Scientology were and are, is a collection of the best pieces of many, many spiritual technologies cobbled together. Lionel asked, did Crowley actually kill people for sacrifices? I don't know. Crowley was trying to gain a following. He was trying to be sensationalistic. Did he really kill people? I don't know. But he said a lot of things to push the merely curious away, and he said a lot of things to be fantastical. So I don't know if he did it. I tend to think no, Crowley did not do it. But did he inspire other people to do it? Very, very well. Could be. So the Church of Scientology, as quoted by young Pharaoh, wanted you to believe that Ron was trying to infiltrate Thelema and prove it wrong. That's simply not true. Real Ron actively, enthusiastically, he was really just a scribe for Parsons. He just wrote down everything that Parsons was doing. Ron was there to learn. Ron was there to understand. Ron said, there might be something here. Let me check it out. He didn't try to infiltrate it. He just went there to learn if there was anything good there. And the Church of Scientology doesn't want you looking outside of them for anything. So they are very, very adamant at trying to discredit every other. It's like Christians. It's like Christians. They don't want you to look at anything else. Heh, says Miscavige swept out Ron's successors in a coup. It's exactly right. Lionel says from what he's learned, Crowley wasn't that bad a guy. He was just crazy as shit. He really was. Aleister Crowley says Lola. Brilliant statement. Aleister Crowley was the first shock jock. You nailed it, Lola. Very, 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 very good. So that's the next part of young Pharaoh's. And I know it bothers you, but I got to make sure I'm right. What about the Sea Org and the media reports about L. Ron Hubbard? Well, young Pharaoh cites a documentary. I would call it really a mockumentary called Going Clear. And Going Clear was produced by HBO. Ladies and gentlemen, we know what HBO is. It's like Hillary's box office. HBO is part of the mainstream media, and we know better than to believe everything that the mainstream media portrays to us. And we probably know that whatever the mainstream media tells us is absolutely wrong. So Going Clear was produced by the mainstream media. And young Pharaoh, he needs to be careful because he's a rising star. And pretty soon, HBO going to make a special about Pharaoh Clear. They're going to be making a special about Pharaoh. And we know that when MSM goes against young Pharaoh, it ain't going to be true. And most of what they said in Going Clear was just a mainstream media hit job on L. Ron Hubbard, because you can't allow this man to stand as an innovator in spirituality if you're trying to keep people from understanding innovation in spirituality. The Sea Org, there's a lot of discussion on it on young Pharaoh's video. I'm an expert on Scientology. This is just one thing that Pharaoh talks about. The Sea Org is basically just the clergy of the Church of Scientology. That's all it is. But if you understand what happened to the Sea Org, you'll understand what happened to the real Ron in white Dianetics and white Scientology. Like I think Lionel said, Ron's Sea Org was disbanded and replaced by the deep state CIA version led by David Miscavige. And young Pharaoh said that the Sea Org is a military organization. I know he got that from Going Clear. That's just wrong. Pharaoh was accurate in reporting what Going Clear was saying, but Going Clear was wrong. How can you be a military organization? And I grew up, born, raised, lived before I came out here with Cynthia my last 6 years in Clearwater. I was less than a mile from the headquarters of the Church of Scientology. And how can you be a military organization when you don't carry weapons? How can you be a military organization when you don't carry weapons? It was suggested on Going Clear that they had 3 warships in this Navy. Dude, they had 3 yachts. One of them pretty big. You could call it a cruise ship. They weren't armed in any way. How can unarmed people with unarmed ships be a military? They're not. That was being reported by Going Clear to try to demonize. It's not true. And L. Ron Hubbard, real Ron, commanded 2 U.S. Navy ships. Now, any idiot can command 1 ship, but an idiot doesn't get to command 2 ships because you got to do it right the first time to get another command. L. Ron Hubbard wasn't a war hero, but he did command 2 U.S. Navy ships. He had a good Navy career, a solid Navy career. All right, and I keep checking the chat to make sure we're not missing anything. All right, so moving on. What about the Sea Org logos? And I should pull up that Sea Org logo. Young Pharaoh spent a lot of time saying that the Sea Org logo was satanic. And, young Pharaoh is not a Christian, so I'm not really sure what he means about satanic. But whatever he means by satanic, why doesn't it show that logo? I can't give you the best picture of it, but we'll give you a really good picture of it. The Sea Org logo. Here it is. And he says that this logo is satanic, and it could be. It could be. But if you look at this logo right here, and I'll blow this up real big so you can maybe see the logo a little bit better. Well, now it goes off the page. We'll just move it over, dummy. Okay, so that's the Sea Org logo. And young Pharaoh talked about these branches and talked about this star. And to be sure, occultic organizations do use this symbology. And then here it says it's a fraternal religious order. It's just the clergy. But what this really is Ron loved the Navy. And what this is that is the star of an admiral. Ron loved the Navy. It's a star of an admiral. And these branches are what are on the brim of the dress uniform cap that, like the police hat that all naval officers wear. So this is the admiral's star. Ron called himself the Commodore, which would be above admiral. But the admiral's star and the leaves that are on the brim of the officer's cap. So while Pharaoh's right in saying that these emblems and these implements are often involved within occultic and secret societies, to keep it in context, Ron loved the Navy. And Ron incorporated naval imagery into his Sea Org logo. The logo it includes the star of an admiral and the leaf design that adorns the brim of all naval officers' dress uniform hats. If Ron's design was satanic, then so is that of the U.S. Navy and every other U.S. military branch. Maybe, you can speculate on that. But he didn't invent it as a satanic emblem. He invented it and copied it out of the Navy because he loved the Navy and he loved the organization of the Navy. And the whole Church of Scientology, Ron's church, was organized along, Chrissy, I joined the Air Force. It was organized along naval standards. And if you go to Clearwater, you'll see them using the and Alan, you're absolutely wrong. And, I appreciate your comment, but to say fascism is satanic, you're believing what they tell you. All fascism means is many pieces joined together. That's all fascism means. Can fascism be satanic? Yes. Can it also be noble? Yes. So Pharaoh made the statement that the Sea Org is made up of a bunch of slaves, and he's absolutely 100% correct. They live in communal living, usually in shitty hotels in Clearwater, and there's some bad ones there. They put them there. They feed them food, at the Sea Org, which I don't know if it's good or bad. And they give them, like $50 a week, ladies and gentlemen. They give them nothing. So Pharaoh is 100% true. And Murphys says, and this is a troll, and I shouldn't read it because you're not going to be allowed to do this unless you have the balls to make the calls. Murphys, have some balls. You cannot troll the chat room. Have some balls. I'm calling you out because you're not got no balls. And maybe no ears because you didn't not doing what I told you. Hubbard's own son thought his father was a nut job. Again, this is trollery at its finest. The truth is that Ron had a son who was being groomed to replace Ron as the leader of Scientology. Oh my, that son got killed somehow. He got Clinton-sided. And the other son, the one that goes on shows and talks about how bad his dad is, was a ne'er-do-well, lazy piece of shit that was jealous because the other son was going to get the mantle and not him. Now, if you want to believe some piece of shit that's never had a real job and only makes his money by going on TV and talking bad about somebody else, that's up to you. But if you're going to say Hubbard's own son thought his father was a nut job, you are intentionally pulling out of context, and you are intentionally trying to paint the situation a way that it isn't really. So no more of that bullshit. We're just going to knock you out of the chat room from now on. And if you do it again, we'll remove your privilege to chat on this channel. And if you want to make such comments, come back in to at the end and make a call. Alan Kistler, this is how you do it. Who was that jerk that I just cut out? Murphys 55. This is how you do it. Alan Kistler, who made the statement that fascism is Satanism. I told him not always. It just means people bound together. And Alan's right. He says, Jeff, you're right. It does mean pulling things together. I didn't say a group of people working together towards a goal is satanic. You're right. Well, I think you erred a little bit in using, fascism is bad. And we'll get to words here at the end. Fascism is not bad unless fascism brings bad people together to do bad things. Thank you, Alan Kistler, for being a gentleman, and thank you for being polite, and thank you for being interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Send it to me. And Murphys 55, not your intent. Well, then, have the balls, make the calls. I appreciate you apologizing. So, the Sea Org is a bunch of slaves. Young Pharaoh was 100% correct. But, we could say the same thing about the Catholic clergy, and young Pharaoh would. So, the Sea Org, slavery. The Sea Org, fear and guilt control matrix. The Sea Org, bad. Church of Scientology, bad. Don't join it. Moving right along. Operation Snow White. Send it to this email. I'll put it in right now. GOTHAMLTD @gmail.com. We also have Jeffrey at jeffreydarty.com. I check the Gotham one more often because that's my personal email. All right. So what about Operation Snow White? And again, this information wasn't available to young Pharaoh at the time, but Operation Snow White, L. Ron Hubbard had already been kidnapped by the deep state. L. Ron Hubbard had probably already been killed by the deep state before Operation Snow White was even initiated. You have to remember that LRH, Real Ron, was kidnapped by the U.S. deep state in 1972. And Operation Snow White was a deep state FF. We can't say those words, but it was a deep state FF to cover their takeover of the Church of Scientology. And it was designed to distance church members loyal to Real Ron and chase off church members loyal to Real Ron and give the power to the new CIA deep state minions of David Miscavige. So Operation, which is misspelled, sorry about that, Snow White, was a cover which said, look at Ron. He's trying to infiltrate the U.S. government while the U.S. government was infiltrating Ron's church. So it was a FF countermeasure, and it's exactly like Russia. Hillary Clinton had sold Russia our own U.S. uranium so they can make bombs to kill us with. She did it for money. And when Hillary realized that she was going to get caught, what did she do? She said, Trump, Russia, Trump, Russia, Trump. And all of her minions are Russia, Trump. Same thing. We're going to take over Scientology. We're going to take over Dianetics. We have killed the Real Ron. We're going to build up Plastic Ron. So we're going to say that Operation Snow White was them coming after us when we went after them. And at this point in the in young Pharaoh's presentation, and I don't want to get going beyond this, but at this point in this presentation, he shows a document that has some nasty things said by Plastic Ron, but it was 1978, and the Real Ron was dead by 1972. So anything said in 1978 was not said by Real Ron. It was said by Plastic Ron, ladies and gentlemen, and that's important to know, and that's important to understand. Young Pharaoh's right about Scientology, and he's right about plastic Ron, but he didn't know about real Ron. So the Church of Scientology purged real Ron and invented their dancing bear, plastic Ron. And the government infiltrated Scientology, and it's at 39:07 at that point, 39 minutes and 7 seconds, that point that young Pharaoh uses of Ron saying something in 78 when Ron was long dead. Young Pharaoh's right. The Church of Scientology is a nightmare. The deep state has infiltrated Ron's church, not the other way around. And then at 39:07, he says that another thing about a 75 publication. Again, Ron was gone in 72. Faux Ron, Gary Baxter says, and that's a really good way to put it. So, what about the COS plantation and the other logos? There's a desert base, and they call it a base. It's out in the desert, in like the Inland Empire in Southern California. And Pharaoh, quoting Going Clear, said they had snipers. They didn't have snipers. But they did pursue people that tried to leave the compound. If they knew that you were a person that was supposed to be there and you left, they would chase you. But it was not a church. The Going Clear said, well, why can't people come in there and go to church? Why is it gated? Well, that wasn't a church. You can go to a Scientology church even today, but that was a Scientology employee base, and you can't just go in. Like, you just can't walk into the Celebrity Center unless you're a celebrity. So this was a base that was only for church members. So that's why you weren't able to just walk in there. Now, young Pharaoh also spent a lot of time looking at the what he called a satanic symbol, which is the Scientology logo, and that's worth taking a look at because it's important to understand. And again, these elements have been used in organizations that Scientology logo that do have nefarious means. But the fact that this logo looks like this doesn't mean that it is necessarily wicked and evil. And let me show you the logo, and I will tell you what the logo means, so we'll understand what the motivations were and what the imagery and the symbology is supposed to be in the logo. This is the logo of Scientology. I'm pretty sure Ron made this logo up. Now young Pharaoh, and young Pharaoh obviously uses a pyramid symbology a lot in his work. So we know that young Pharaoh isn't trying to use any occultic symbology. He's using the pyramid for a completely different reason. And these are not pyramids. This obviously stands for Scientology. But, and I don't know which you'd say which one's the top, which one's the bottom, but these are two triangles. And this one, we'll just say it's this one, and I think it is this one. This is called the ARC triangle. And ARC, basically this shows you how to communicate with yourself and how to communicate with everybody else. And communication is the only thing that really matters in this world. If you can't communicate, you can't deal with people, and you can't even deal with yourself. That's some of you problem. Some of our visitors here, you don't know how to communicate with yourself. You don't know how to get into your soul because you think that you're born with original sin. You don't know that you're born with the spark of divinity within. You don't realize you're divine, sovereign, and free, and don't have to go on bended knee to somebody else's savior because you don't need salvation. But if you understood the workings of these triangles, this is why I'm doing it. I'm obviously not talking about Scientology and Dianetics to gain subscribers because I've been losing them ever since I started. But our views are up over 60%. We're not here for subscribers. We got a mission. We're here for viewers. So it's full speed ahead. Affinity, reality, communication. What that means is it's a triangle. If you want to communicate with someone, you've got to create some affinity with them. And you've got to agree on what's real. And then you can have communication. But you can only have communication if you've got some shared reality. And you can only have communication if you've got some affinity. And you can only have a reality with some affinity. And you can only have some affinity by communicating. So if you can understand, if you want to communicate with anybody, Jeff, how do I talk to my brother, sister, mother, aunt, uncle, in-law, outlaw? You either have to create some affinity. Hey, I love you. We're a family. We're friends. Create some affinity. And once you've created some affinity, then you can create some reality. And you can create reality as easily as saying, wow, it's hot today, if it's really hot. You can create affinity by saying, wow, it's cold today, if it's really cold. You can create affinity by saying, or reality and affinity. You can, because if you create one, it helps the others. You can create reality by saying, damn, this is a crazy world we're in right now. Damn, aren't things going crazy? You instantly got reality with the person. Oh, shit, yeah, things are really real. It's crazy. So now you got reality. And because you realize that it's crazy too, now you got some affinity with them. And what does that do? That allows you to communicate with them. You see how this works? You can talk to anybody about anything if you can just state some reality. That's a really nice hat you're wearing. You know that bitch wearing that hat thinks it's a nice hat, or he wouldn't have put it on, right? Oh, this mother brother likes my hat. We got some reality. He knows this is a badass hat. Oh, so I got a little affinity with him. Maybe I can communicate with him. You see how it works? That's what this triangle is. Ain't no pyramid. It's the ARC triangle. And then this other one is a little bit hidden, I think, because this is the deeper knowledge. Anybody can use ARC. That's Dianetics. KRC gets us into Scientology, which ties them both together. See how that works? This is the KRC. The KRC triangle. And it starts with knowledge, you learning, you discovering, you understanding, right? It starts with some knowledge. You got to have some knowledge to get into this KRC triangle, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have some knowledge to get into this KRC triangle. And I just want to make sure that I explain it to you completely correct. So we're going to just pull this up a little bit. So you got some knowledge, right? You got you some knowledge because you got the K part down. But what do you do with your knowledge? You got to have some responsibility with it. You know what? This could be called the divine, sovereign, and free triangle. This could be called the divine, sovereign, and free triangle, ladies and gentlemen, because, you got your knowledge, but once you get knowledge, you're responsible. You're responsible for what you do with that knowledge. And you're responsible for controlling, KRC, controlling that knowledge. And if you can't control your knowledge, it's going to mess up your triangle and you won't be able to understand yourself. Know thyself, K, right? Responsibly use the knowledge that you have under control. That's the way you master yourself. This is Scientology. Know yourself, take responsibility for yourself, and control yourself. This is Dianetics. Have some affinity, create some reality, and you can have some communication. This is not satanic. This is not diabolical. But the going clear people want you to think it's diabolical. They want you to think it's diabolical, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what the Scientology logo means. Very simple, very easy, right? And not satanic at all. That's what the logo means. There's also a pyramid logo, ladies and gentlemen. And the pyramid logo just relates to the four dynamics, the main four dynamics. Number one, your damn self. You got to get your damn self under control. Number two, you and building a family through procreation. And we're going to get to was Ron a racist? We're all racist. We need to procreate within our own race. So it's you, your family through procreation, then the rest of your people. You could say your race, your nation, and then number four, the rest of humanity. So that pyramid, and Pharaoh uses pyramids. He knows that not all pyramids are bad. That pyramid emblem, I guess I'll show you the Dianetic pyramid. And this was created by Ron. So that's why I'm actually Dianetic, Pyra, Dianetic pyramid. And I will show you. Oh, come on, man. They ain't going to show me the Dianetic pyramid. How about Scientology pyramid? Even though it's not a Scientology pyramid. Here it is. It's not a Scientology pyramid, but they don't know what they're talking about. It's mainstream media, right? It's Google. They don't know. But here is the Scientology pyramid. Get your damn self right, dynamic one. Survive yourself. Survive with you and your symbiotes, Ron called it, sexual procreation. Number 3, help your whole race and your people survive. Number 4, help all people survive. That's what it means, and that's what it is. And green means growth. It means action. It means the earth. It means being in touch. So that's what that logo means. Now, we might as well get into the Dianetic cross, because he also mentioned the Dianetic cross. And Ron didn't use this Dianetic cross very much. The fake church uses it. Ron didn't use the Dianetic cross all that much, but Ron did come up with it. I think he realized that the imagery associated with the cross just ain't worth it. But Ron did come up with this Dianetic cross. And let me give you a good picture of it so we can talk about it. The Dianetic cross that you're looking at right here. Again, Ron kind of did away with the use of it because, I mean, let's face it, there's just too much baggage with a cross. And like young Pharaoh correctly pointed out, there is some occultic connections to a cross that looks like this. So it just wasn't needed. But what it really means is it's a takeoff. It's really an enhancement of the pyramid, because what you've got is you've got dynamic 1, yourself, dynamic 2, your sexual procreation, dynamic 3, your race, dynamic 4, the whole world. And then it goes into Scientology. Oh, so now we're going to help all humanity. Now we're going to help all other beings that are in this creation realm with us. Now we're going to help all beings that are within our galaxy, if there are. And now we're going to help all beings that are even beyond our galaxy. This cross, as Ron envisioned it, was expanding from the main four dynamics of Dianetics into all 8 of the dynamics that are talked about within the totality of Dianetics and Scientology. And I just paraphrase them. I'll give you the actual breakdown of those 8 dynamics: self, creativity, group survival, survival for the species, survival for life forms, survival for this physical universe, survival of a spiritual dynamic, and then existing in infinity. So that's the 8 that he's talking about: self, creativity, group survival, species, life forms, physical universe, spiritual dynamic, and even out to infinity. So that's what this cross was envisioned to mean. Ron quit using it because it's got too much baggage, but the real church, the fake church, still uses it today. A lot of time on that, but Pharaoh went into that very deep, and it's important to understand that as well. I haven't kept a very good eye on the chat room. I apologize for that. I haven't kept a very good eye on the chat room. This is reaction to a Pharaoh video from 2018. That is correct. Let's see. Sarah, you made your point. If you are trying to make a point and Tracy's dealing with you, I know you're a girl, but have the balls to make the calls. You can't troll in the chat room, but you can pick up the phone when I open up the line here in just a little bit. And then he also talks about the operating Thetan logo. I'm not going to deal with the operating Thetan logo because the operating Thetan logo wasn't developed until 1978, and real Ron was already kidnapped, killed, and dead by then. So we're not going to deal with the OT logo. But Pharaoh made a statement, and again, this came from not Pharaoh being wrong, but from his data source going clear, mockumentary being wrong. And he said that Dianetics use machines to get into your mind. Well, the fact of the matter is, I've been doing Dianetic work with people for 3 years, and I never used a machine because I'm doing it remote. It's very rare for me to use to work with someone one-on-one. And the fact of the matter is, Dianetics requires no machines. You don't have to have any machines to perform Dianetics. No machines. Now, there is a machine that's called the E-meter. And what an E-meter does, an E-meter, ladies and gentlemen, allows a person to hold these two metal things. They call them cans because they kind of look like little, Red Bull cans or something. And as you're holding the cans, as we're going back through your life track, I can look at a meter and it will record your, it doesn't judge, it just records your electronic response. We're all electric, and when we have feelings, it produces electricity. And when I see that meter go way up, I know that this is a very strong Ingram in you. If it just goes up a little bit, I know it's just a little bitty Ingram. But as a trained practitioner, and this is what Real Ron taught, is you to audit yourself, you don't need the E-meter. The E-meter is kind of a little bit for lazy people. It's a little bit for lazy people because you should be able, if you're a skilled auditor, if you're a skilled life track analyst, that's what I call it, you should be able to look at the person you're working with and tell just by their reactions. Is that Ingram very, very strong? Is that Ingram just a little one? But in order to help more people, we'll take the high road. The E-meter was invented, and it does make it easier. But you don't need it, and I don't need it. And Dianetics is not trying to get in anybody's mind, quite the opposite. And again, the OT logo was not invented until 1988. So let's go ahead. The sound was gone because I took myself out of the stream. My bad. Thank you for calling my attention to that. So we're talking about, is Dianetics, is Scientology hypnotism? That's what we're talking about right now, ladies and gentlemen. Is it hypnotism? And I am a certified Ericksonian hypnotist. I don't like to talk about things that I don't know, but I do know hypnotism because I'm a certified hypnotist. And I'm here to tell you that Dianetics is not hypnotism. And in fact, Real Ron says quite explicitly that Dianetics forbids hypnotism. And I know some of you are hypnotists and you use hypnotism in your therapy, but the fact is that we do not, in the use of Dianetics or Scientology, use hypnotism because it opens the door for the creation of very strong engrams, even if it is unintentional. Because what hypnotism does, let's start off. What hypnotism does is it lowers your analytical consciousness. You're there, but you're not there. It lowers your analytical consciousness. And when your analytical consciousness is overlooked, is lowered, that's when engrams can be placed in your mind. Hypnotism lowers your analytical consciousness and allows post-hypnotic suggestions to be entered into your mind. Now, most people, if they're trying to get you to quit the smoke, they can put a post-hypnotic suggestion. Every time you see a cigarette, you're going to feel sick to your stomach. That would be an example of an engram, but the hypnotist is trying to help you. So it's kind of like a pro-survival engram, but it's still an engram. But if that hypnotist is trying to put an engram in you and they happen to cough or snort or something falls over, that also goes in as part of the engram. And now you could not even be thinking about smoking, but something falls over, reminds you of that, and now you're feeling sick. So we don't use hypnosis because even in the most honorable use of it, you can install engrams in people. And that's what we're trying to get out of people. We're actually trying to help people get it out of them. So we don't use hypnotism. And in fact, hypnotism is forbidden in use of Dianetics and Scientology. And I myself will never use hypnotism again because it is too easily misused and even unintentionally so. So I do not use hypnotism. Dianetics is not hypnotism, and it could be inadvertently creating thetans. Scientology is not hypnotism. And there's a real hypnotism is an invitation for disaster. I no longer use it. There was some discussion on Pharaoh's video about what is a thetan. And thetan's kind of a scary word. It's kind of a weird word, right? It's a weird word. But all thetan means is it's an attempt by real Ron to clear up the 2,000 years of mind control and 2,000 years of confusion we've got over the spirit and soul. I mean, I argued with Wayne for 3 years. What's the difference between spirit and soul, right? Well, this word thetan completely takes that argument off the table. It takes that confusion off the table, because a thetan is simply the word for whatever it is about you that ain't human. A thetan is the spiritual, real you. So we don't have to argue and worry about soul and spirit. If I say soul, Skeleton Man thinks it means this. Red Hot American thinks it means that. Okay? Red Hot American says that hypnotism doesn't work unless you're weak. I wish that were true. I wish that were true. Now, some people can be hypnotized to a greater degree than others, but I'm telling you, almost everybody on this planet is being subject to hypnotism and implanting of engrams. Watch my video from just the other day about the awakening, the event. So that's what a thetan is, ladies and gentlemen. It's the true you. And the thetan doesn't have any color. The thetan doesn't have any... Does it have sex? I don't know. But the thetan doesn't have any color. And boy, we really all need to get to understanding each other's thetans, don't we? I think we do. All right. So the Church of Scientology, LRH, and Jesus. Young Pharaoh's right. The modern LRH, Plastic Ron, is the Church of Scientology Jesus. He's Plastic Ron. He's a dancing bear to them. Plastic Ron, like Plastic Jesus, is a pseudo being that they can claim their authority from, and that allows them to change books and require people to buy new books. Dude, if there's Plastic Ron and Plastic Ron makes some new words that you can put in a new book, you can charge people exorbitant prices for buying the new books when the old books were better than the new ones. And I didn't really think of that angle until young Pharaoh showed me that on his video. So yeah, he's a pseudo being, gives them pseudo authority, just like Jesus. Well, Jesus said, well, where is Jesus? How come Jesus never said nothing himself? But it's a pseudo being that they can claim authority from, and a pseudo being that they can still channel and cause people to buy more books and spend more bucks. At 104 of his video, he makes a statement that is not in the pre-1972 editions. I don't know which one it was, but you can see it when you see the video. And Pharaoh says that, and this is Going Clear again, quoting Going Clear, he was, that you can't modify Dianetics or Scientology. Well, I modify it all the time. And Ron actually said that we should modify and update Dianetics and Scientology as new discoveries are made available. He says it's not really a science if it doesn't avail itself to improvement by new discoveries. I like to think I'm the heir apparent of L. Ron Hubbard. We're bringing it to the next level. And Ron said not only should you change, can you change it, but you should change it as new discoveries are made available. And we're almost at the end now, folks. So was L. Ron Hubbard a racist? This is one of the last things that Pharaoh talked about. Was L. Ron Hubbard a racist? Yes, he was. L. Ron Hubbard was a racist. And I am a racist too. And young Pharaoh is as racist as I am. Because the word racist means somebody that is concerned with race. You know Pharaoh is concerned with the black race, and I salute him and applaud him for it. I'm glad that somebody's doing that work. You know that I'm concerned with the white race, and I'm glad to be, and I want us white race to get as good as we can. Ron was also concerned with race because Pharaoh, me, Ron, we all want the best for the human race. And the human race cannot be optimized until all the races that make up the human race are optimized. Now, at 107.33, Ron made some statements that he probably wouldn't make in 2020 as regarding South African tribalists. And you can listen to those statements on Young Pharaoh's channel. And Ron made some, I would call them regrettable statements. Again, it was, in the late 60s, early 70s that he made these statements. And it was a different day. Ron is smart enough and elegant enough that he wouldn't have said these things today, but he made some statements about the Booga Booga tribe, doing the Booga Booga language, and he shouldn't have said those things. But his point was, if we can get past the use of regrettable language, that it wasn't outright racist, but he didn't have to say it the way that he said it. He talked about South African tribalists and their refusal to learn. Ron basically said, if there's most people on earth can be taught, but these South African tribalists, very hard to teach them anything. And he said, as an example, they won't adopt modern agricultural practices and they continue to scorch their land because even though you go down and teach them modern agricultural practices like rotating their fields and just basic agriculture, they still won't listen because it's not the way they do it. And Ron was pointing out as an example, these South African tribalists, we try to teach them, but they won't learn. And it's true. And is the pointing out of that truth racist? I say no. He said they're the hardest people in the world to teach, Ron did. I think Ron might have been wrong. Because when you can say to a Christian, look at this word. Look at this word. This is what it means. And somebody that says they're a Bible scholar will look at that word and say, no, that's not what it means. God damn it, that is what it means. Look. The dictionary says that's what it means. The thesaurus says that's what it means. The damn word means this. Oh, no, it doesn't mean that. Listen, bitch. You can't grow shit like this or shit ain't going to grow. Oh, no, we're going to do it our way. It's like Sam Kinison, the great Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison asked, why are we sending people food in Africa? We need to send them buses. Take them out there. Show them this dirt. You see this? Shit ain't going to grow here. You got to move. Move. But they won't get on the bus. They won't get on the bus. Christians the same way. This word right here shows that Jesus ain't going to resurrect you in a glorified body. He's going to resurrect you in the mortal body subject to death. It says it. Bible scholar. Oh, no, it doesn't say that at all. I've been on a debate with him. I didn't know it was a debate, but it ended up a debate. It does mean that. And you can't teach a bitch something that a bitch don't want to learn. If you can say to a bitch, this is a phone, and he says, oh, no, that's not a phone. All right, bitch, I'm on to the next bitch. Maybe he can learn something or she can learn something. So I think LRH was referring to a culture, not a skin color in those remarks. That's just me. At 108.52 of Pharaoh's video, which is linked in the box below, he made a statement from Plastic Ron that was not from Real Ron in the pre-1972 editions. Ron Hubbard was a racist. I'm a racist. Pharaoh is a racist. And that's a duplicate. And he also said down here that African Americans are more in touch with messed. I think Pharaoh might have taken that as a diss, but actually messed, ladies and gentlemen, means, oh, come on, help me, matter, energy, space, and time. And what Ron was saying is that African Americans, and I've made this observation. I hope Lola doesn't get mad at me, but I've made this observation that when I was an evangelist for 20 years, I went to churches all over the world, literally 5 continents, and I always saw, for some reason, that black people seem to be more in touch with spirituality. They tend to have a more of a spiritual bent about them, and that's what Ron was saying. Black people, by and large, not every black person, but black people tend to be more in touch with matter. They're more in touch with the earth. They're more in touch with their feelings. They're also more in touch with energy. They're more in touch with space. They're more in touch with time. Hipsy gypsy, you piece of shit, have the balls to make the calls. Don't spam my channel. I guarantee you that bitch won't call afterwards. So it was really a compliment that black folks are more in touch with matter, energy, space, time. Is it because of melanin? I don't know. But Ron was actually given a compliment. Ron was given a compliment. So many are walking away from nature, unfortunately, says Lola. She's right. All right. Now the Nation of Islam and LRH. I think this is it. Pharaoh took the nation to task for recommending the book Dianetics. But the nation knows that it works. That's why they use it. But the nation needs to be very careful because the edition of the Dianetics book they're using, they need to quit using it because they're only getting about 75% of the true power of the tech in that post-1972 edition that they're using. So the nation, and I got books right here from the nation. I'm pretty sure you know that I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam, but when the Nation of Islam breaks down some truth, I don't care where truth comes from. That book right there is from the Nation of Islam. And I'm fixing to teach out of it. I already have taught out of it. See, Hipsy Gypsy is a little bitch-ass punk. Bitch-ass punk. Double bitch-ass, double punk. And I'll bet you his sorry ass won't call at the end of the show because he's a bitch. The nation uses this because Dianetics helps get people straight. Real Dianetics, white Dianetics helps get people straight. But I'm telling you, Minister Farrakhan, if you're listening, you better get rid of that shit and get the updated version, my friend. Get the updated version. I got it right here somewhere. And I'll give you the website if you want to get it. Because it doesn't have any of the bad stuff and it gets you all the good stuff. Jeff, why do you use Dianetics? I use Dianetics because it works. Jeff, why do you use Scientology? I use it because it works. And not only does it work 100% of the time for 100% of the people. And I am not convinced that LRH, Real Ron, authored the Xenu narrative. I am not convinced that Real Ron authored the Xenu narrative. I think it's more efforts to discredit Real Ron. I think Plastic Ron is responsible for Plastic Xenu. Plastic Ron is responsible for Plastic Xenu. I'll say it one more time, Gypsy, before I ban you from commenting in the channel. You are not allowed to troll the chat. You are allowed, well, Tracy already nailed you. You are allowed to call in just a couple of minutes and talk to me. So now you know it all, ladies and gentlemen. Between the two of us, young Pharaoh and I have now given you all the goods on the very dangerous Church of Scientology and their pseudo-Jesus, Jesus Ron Hubbard, their pseudo-Jesus, pseudo-Ron, plastic Ron. Now you got the goods. You got all the goods. Now you have all the information and the understanding you need to decide if you want to take advantage of the work of the real Ron Hubbard and the collection of spiritual technologies he put together that I personally, after 40 years of study, have found to be the most effective and workable system of spiritual technologies that there is. Now you know. And we didn't really answer. We supplemented young Pharaoh in his 2018 assertions on Dianetics, Scientology, and L. Ron Hubbard. And once again, he was 100% correct about what he said about the Church of Scientology. He was 100% correct what he said about Black Dianetics and Black Scientology. He was 100% correct what he said about Plastic Ron Hubbard, L. Ron Jesus, Jesus Ron Hubbard. He was very 100% correct about that. But new information has been released since then that shows us that Plastic Ron was invented and has created all types of difficulties and all types of problems, ladies and gentlemen, in our world. So I'm going to open up the phone line, and I'm going to try to open it up so that, and I haven't got the new one installed yet. That's my job today when we get done. It will be open by Monday night for the late night in the Heartland that you see behind me. So right now, let me just survey the chat room really quickly. We are going to, I don't have time to talk about Wicca, Shane. Honestly, I don't. I'm going to go into the chat room, and I'm going to let you just just going to look really, really quickly, and then we'll open up the phone line. And it is open for trolls, but you have to be polite and you have to be interesting, or we will drop you out. Lola says we need to strengthen the family unit. Very, very true. Let's just do it this way. I really appreciate that. Yes, Jeff Hubbard was correct. That's Delaney. Real Ron was correct. I agree with Delaney. Lola, never heard of this. It's hard for me to believe Lola never heard of nothing. She's a very smart lady. I can tell just from and Brandon's talking about some of the tribalists in Africa committing atrocities, and that's true. That's true. Let's see. Grandmaster Sexy says that he's racist too. And we've heard from him on the late night in the Heartland. He's trying to get his race of people strong. That's a racist. That's why I'm a racist. That's why Grandmaster Sexy's a racist. And we're also trying to get the human race strong, ladies and gentlemen. What else we got? A lot of good stuff. Let's just go ahead and open the phone line, and we'll keep it open just for a few minutes. We've been here a long time. If we get, a few calls, that's great. If we don't, we'll just go ahead and complete the program. This has been a supplement to Young Pharaoh's video on Scientology. And a lot of you have had some problems with doing Scientology because you correctly trust Young Pharaoh as a great source, and everything he said was right. But again, now we know what we're talking about. I appreciate all of the moderators. This was especially a bad day, a hard day for being a moderator. I really appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of you being here, seeking after truth. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night for Late Night in the Heartland. It's 11:01 p.m. Central Time. It goes to 1:01 a.m., and we take your calls all night long. No subject matter, no restrictions, one after the other. Brand new phone system for Monday night. But see, here's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. This is my life. People want to talk about how bad I am, how stupid I am, how horrible I am. I know nothing. I'm dangerous. I'm an antichrist. But not one of those lazy, ballless, low-T bitches will pick up a phone given the opportunity to call, because they're bitches. They got no testicular fortitude. All they do is sit there like little babies and snipe in the chat room. We're not letting you snipe in the chat room anymore. No more. You have to have the balls to pick up the phone and make the calls. We'll open up the phone lines every single show I do, but we will bounce your ass in a New York minute if you troll in the chat. No more. It's only for men. It's only for women that have the tenacity to say you're wrong, and here's what I want to say. If you don't have the balls to make the calls, then you're lazy, pipsqueak, fraidy cat ass is not going to be able to talk in the chat room either. They have demonized Scientology to keep you from looking at it. They want you mentally unhealthy. Tracy Dyer, she's right. Social distancing is a way to encourage the community to dissolve, says Lola. She's right. They're keyboard warriors, says Grandmaster Sexy. Damn right. I've had enough of you bitches. I had enough of you punk-ass little bitches. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been, Gary says they're sackless. They are. Not only do they not have anything in the sack, they don't even have a sack. This has been Not Your Normal Sunday. And we will be here tomorrow night, maybe before, but for sure tomorrow night, 11:01 for Late Night in the Heartland. We'll have a new call-in number. And again, here's another one. Sarah Smith, you can't do that bullshit. Come in here and talk bad about my brother, young Pharaoh. You are a bitch. You're a, oh, I hope this is Sarah, because you can't bring your ass in my chat room and say shit without coming to the mic. Here we go. It is Not Your Normal Sunday. You're live with Jeffrey Darty. What's on your mind?
Hey, Jeff. I wanted to address people in the chat that were trying to attack young Pharaoh. I mean, I understand that he's not a perfect person. Nobody is. But to say that a lot of his research has been debunked and whatnot, he always provides receipts on the stuff that he presents. So I don't understand why people would, one, convince him of being a pedo, because he's had multiple call-in shows where he encourages people to call in. And if they have verifiable evidence that they're bringing against him, he's like, otherwise I'm going to bring a lawsuit against you for slander. So I don't understand why there's so many people attacking his character or whatever. They say that they followed him for years, but I honestly think they're just trolling.
You know, the reality is that they're not attacking him. They don't have the balls to attack him. And all of that stuff is stupid. All of that stuff is not true. And they won't get on the phone and make a call and talk to the man. I don't agree with everything young Pharaoh says, but I agree with most of what he says. And I know that he is a true researcher. I know that he works hard. We all make mistakes. But I'm pretty damn sure he's not a pedo, for 100% sure. I invited him to stay at my home when he moved. I'm not going to have somebody that I think have any doubts about stay in my home with my wife. But we opened our home to young Pharaoh and his family. That should say all you need to know about what Jeff Darty thinks about young Pharaoh. And if you haven't got the guts to call the hell with you, I appreciate you calling and defending young Pharaoh, because not that he needs it, but he deserves it.
Well, of course, and that was my point, is like he defends himself with what he presents, and I feel like he verifies what he presents. And honestly, I hate seeing the character of good people attacked, because that is all that they have, is ad hominem attacks. They don't have anything that's verifiable.
You're absolutely right. Thanks so much for calling in. I appreciate that very much.
Thanks. Have a great Sunday.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a great place to cut it off. We appreciate every single one of you. I hope to see you again in the near future. I hope that you'll subscribe to this channel. I hope that you will like or dislike this video. Help us get this message out to more people. Please subscribe to the channel, and please tune in tomorrow night at 11:01 for Late Night in the Heartland. Our new phone system, and we're ready to rock and roll. For Tracy and Jamin, all the great moderators, I salute you for being here, seeking after truth. My continuing love to Cynthia, who's making me better than I've ever been. Last question, Nina DePen. Jeff, I've seen Dianetics' original thesis at a used bookstore. All you have to do is look inside and see when it was published. And that's probably not. But if it's pre-72, get it and read it. If it's not pre-72, leave it on the shelf. And I've got, if you go to my Create Yourself playlist on this channel, there is a website where you can get all of the pre-72 books, I think free of charge, on a download basis. You can also buy them. Thank you, Julio, for subscribing after I was on Tinfoil Hat with the great Sam Tripoli. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages, you're the last generation of real humans. This world is going to be better than it's ever been, sooner than you can even imagine. All we got to do is ask questions, question answers, unindoctrinate ourselves, and get busy. With deep respects to young Pharaoh and to all of you, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. I'm also your mailman. The rain, snow, sleet, dark and night, trolls, bitches, all of them. We continue to keep our appointed rounds. And ladies and gentlemen, you've got mail.